Hey, English learners. Welcome back to the English Daily Podcast, your cozy place to learn simple English through real-life conversations, useful vocabulary, and gentle motivation. I'm John.
And I'm Sarah. John, can I ask you a question today?
Another question. After last week's episode, I was definitely expecting that. Go ahead, Sarah.
Who is the absolute best listener you have ever met in your entire life? Not the funniest person, not the smartest person, but the single best listener.
That's a fascinating question. I'd have to say my grandfather. Whenever I talked to him when I was growing up, I felt like I was literally the only person in the entire world. He never looked at his phone, he never checked his watch, he never interrupted me mid-sentence. He just sat there quietly and truly listened to every word I had to say.
Wow. How did that make you feel as a young boy?
It made me feel incredibly important, respected, and deeply understood. Honestly, I don't remember most of the specific advice he gave me over the years, but I will always remember how he made me feel in those moments.
That is so beautiful, John. I think so many people in the world spend their entire lives trying to become better, more impressive speakers, especially English learners who are constantly practicing their speech. But today we're going to focus on something just as important, and perhaps even more powerful, the art of listening. Today's episode is titled, Why Great Listeners Build Better Relationships.
I already have a strong feeling this conversation isn't just going to be about hearing words passively. Listening is really about attention, genuine curiosity, kindness, and making another human being feel seen and valued. This episode is tailor-made for B1 to B2 English learners. Even if you're a strong A2 learner, don't worry about understanding every single word. Just relax, listen, and enjoy the flow of the conversation.
Whether you're walking outside, sipping a cup of coffee, traveling to work, or actively practicing your English, thank you so much for spending these next few minutes with us on the English Daily Podcast. So let's jump right in. John, why do you think people interrupt each other so often during everyday conversations?
Maybe because they get overly excited about the topic, or maybe they're just impatient to share their own opinions. But I think there's a deeper reason. Many people aren't actually listening to understand. They're simply waiting for their turn to speak. That hurts a little bit to admit because I've definitely been guilty of doing that myself. Someone is talking to me, and instead of truly listening, my mind is already busy preparing what clever thing I'm going to say next.
Exactly. Your ears are open, but your mind is occupied somewhere else. So you're technically hearing the sounds, but you're not really listening. There is a massive difference between those two things. Hearing is a physical function that happens automatically, but listening is an intentional choice that requires your full attention, patience, and presence.
I really love that distinction, Sarah. Listening isn't just something your ears do, it's something your mind and heart do together. Have you ever been in the middle of talking to someone only to notice they keep glancing down at their phone while you speak? It's such a terrible feeling. It instantly makes you feel like you and your words aren't important. They might be hearing the sounds coming out of your mouth, but you don't feel heard.
There is a huge difference between hearing words and feeling heard. I once read a quote that said, listening is actually one of the simplest and purest ways to show love. Not just romantic love, but friendship, familial love, respect, and basic human kindness. When you give someone your undivided attention, you are silently communicating, "You matter to me right now," without ever having to say those exact words out loud.
Wow, I have never thought about listening as an act of love or respect like that. Imagine your friend has had a terrible, stressful day at work. What do you think they need from you first? Immediate advice and solutions? Or just someone who will sit quietly and listen?
I used to think people always wanted immediate solutions because I'm naturally a problem solver. Whenever someone shared a problem, my brain would instantly start jumping to find answers. But I've realized that most of the time, people don't want you to fix their problems right away. They just want to know they aren't alone in their struggle. Sometimes the greatest help you can offer is simply saying, "I'm here for you. Tell me more. I understand how hard that must feel."
Those are such simple words, but they carry immense emotional power. And you know what, Sarah? I think becoming a great listener also dramatically speeds up your journey to fluency in English. Many language learners focus almost exclusively on speaking, which is important, but becoming an active listener expands your vocabulary naturally, improves your pronunciation, helps you absorb real native expressions, and makes you an all-around better communicator. Listening isn't passive, it's active learning.
Absolutely.
Sarah, can I ask you another question? What do you think is the absolute hardest part about being a truly great listener in today's world?
I think the hardest part is setting aside your own ego and your own story for just a little while so that someone else has the emotional space to tell theirs. Making space for another person's narrative without constantly jumping in with, "Oh, the same thing happened to me," is rare, and that is precisely where deep, lasting relationships begin.
That phrase is going to stay with me for a long time. Making space for another person's story. Do you think people remember great listeners more than they remember great speakers?
100%. Maybe they won't remember every single sentence a great listener said, but they will never forget how calm, safe, and respected that person made them feel. When someone truly listens to you without judging, you naturally feel safer to be honest and open up. Have you noticed that the people who are the most enjoyable to talk to aren't usually the ones who talk nonstop? They're the ones who ask thoughtful questions, smile, pay attention, and let the conversation flow naturally.
Yes, because great conversations aren't competitions where someone wins, they're collaborative team efforts. We get so caught up in trying to sound interesting to others, when in reality, people enjoy conversations far more when they are made to feel interesting and valued. Instead of constantly asking yourself, "How can I impress this person?" try asking, "How can I help this person feel truly heard?"
That is such a brilliant shift in perspective. And here's another thing I've learned about great conversations. Silence doesn't always have to feel awkward. So many people panic when a conversation falls silent for 3 seconds and feel an urgent need to fill the void with meaningless noise. But a few seconds of comfortable silence actually signals that you are taking a moment to carefully consider what the other person just said. Silence can be a powerful part of communication.
Exactly. Not every single moment requires spoken words. So what are the main obstacles that stop us from listening well in our modern lives? Distractions, constant stress, smartphone notifications, in our own cluttered internal thoughts. We are so often physically present in a room with someone, but mentally miles away, thinking about our work meetings or grocery lists. Listening is a skill that takes conscious practice, just like learning a new language.
In fact, listening is the very first skill human beings develop. Babies listen to the sounds of their parents' language for months before they ever utter their first spoken word. So English learners should never feel bad if they spend more time listening than speaking in the beginning. Listening builds the mental foundation. The more high-quality English you listen to, the more naturally and effortlessly your spoken English will flow when you're ready.
I remember when I first started learning a foreign language years ago. I couldn't say much at all in the beginning, but I listened every single day. Little by little, my brain started recognizing isolated words, then full sentences, and eventually full conversations. That is how natural language acquisition works. Progress almost always begins quietly behind the scenes.
So, John, what is one practical daily habit that our listeners can adopt starting today to become better listeners in their personal lives and in English?
It's super simple. Before you reply to someone, Pause for just one full second. Take a breath and ask yourself, did I really understand what they meant, or am I just reacting to what they said? That tiny 1-second pause completely changes the energy of a conversation. It turns a reactive discussion into a thoughtful exchange.
That is such a small habit, but small habits create massive long-term transformations. When people feel genuinely heard by you, trust is built instantly. I think I'm going to try an experiment this week. Whenever someone talks to me, I'm going to consciously stop planning my response in advance and just focus 100% on listening to them.
I love that experiment. And now, Sarah, I think it's time for my favorite segment of the entire show.
Is it time for Word Walk?
You know it. Let's walk through 5 rich, highly practical vocabulary words that our listeners can start using in their daily English conversations today.
Welcome back to Word Walk, where we take advanced, impressive English vocabulary and make it friendly and easy to use. Let's get started with our very first word today. John, what is it?
Our first word today is empathy. Empathy is the deep ability to understand and emotionally share the feelings of another person. It's about putting yourself in their shoes and seeing the world through their eyes. For example, great listeners demonstrate empathy instead of instantly judging others. Every strong friendship is built on a foundation of empathy.
Our second word today is attentive. Being attentive means paying very careful attention to someone or something and noticing small details. When you put your phone away, look someone in the eyes, and focus entirely on their words, you are being an attentive listener. For example, she was such an attentive listener that everyone felt completely comfortable opening up to her.
Our third word is interrupt. To interrupt means to speak or break in while someone else is actively talking, stopping them before they can finish their thought. While we all do it accidentally when we get excited, frequent interrupting can make people feel unheard and disrespected. For example, try not to interrupt your colleagues when they are explaining their ideas in meetings. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is simply wait your turn.
Our fourth word is presence. In the context of relationships and communication, presence doesn't just mean physically being in a room, it means giving someone your full mental, emotional, and undivided attention in the present moment. For example, sometimes your quiet presence means far more to a grieving friend than any words of advice could.
And our fifth and final word today is connection. A connection is a feeling of deep mutual understanding, trust, warmth, and shared harmony between people. Active, attentive listening is the single fastest way to build meaningful connections with others. For example, genuine, honest conversations create lasting human connections that can span a lifetime.
Let's do a quick recap of our 5 terms for today's Word Walk. Empathy, understanding and sharing someone else's emotional feelings. Attentive, paying careful, focused attention to details. Interrupt, speaking over someone before they finish their sentence. Presence, giving your full mental and emotional focus to the present moment. Connection, a deep bond of trust and understanding between people.
Before we wrap up today's episode, we want to leave you with one final thought to reflect on throughout your week. People may eventually forget the exact words you spoke to them, but they will rarely, if ever, forget how you made them feel in your presence.
The next time a friend, family member, colleague, or fellow English learner speaks to you, don't worry about coming up with the perfect, most impressive response. Focus on being fully present. Listen with curiosity, listen with patience, and listen with genuine kindness. Becoming a great listener won't just transform your relationships, it will make you a better learner, a more confident communicator, and a far more fluent English speaker.
So here is your small challenge for this week. Put your phone away in your pocket. Look people in the eyes when they speak. Ask them simple questions like, "Can you tell me more about that?" And then simply listen. You might be amazed by how much a single conversation can transform when you truly listen. I'm John.
And I'm Sarah. You've been listening to the English Daily Podcast. Thank you so much for spending part of your valuable day with us. Keep listening, keep learning, keep growing. And always remember, your English language goals and your personal life goals are both much closer than you think. We'll see you in the very next episode. Take care, everyone.